One game into the NFL season and we already have a concussion controversy? Welcome to That's Gotta Hurt. I'm Dr. David Geier. You know, I write newspaper columns for my local newspaper, the Post and Courier here in Charleston, South Carolina, every couple of weeks. And I bet over 6 years I've written about concussions and CTE and other forms of brain injury in football and the NFL especially. I bet 40 or 50 times now, maybe not quite that many, but 30 or 40 times, about all sorts of things, about making sure players admit that they have a concussion, not letting players return to the game without being checked. We've talked about helmets and all sorts of different things to try to decrease the rates of concussions and long-term risks of concussions and other brain trauma in football. So my vow heading into this NFL season was going to be, I was going to cut down on the number of concussion articles about the NFL that I wrote. Not that it's not important. I don't mean that at all, but there's all sorts of other topics to talk about in sports medicine. So I'm watching the Super Bowl rematch the other night. The they play in Charlotte, the Carolina Panthers and Denver Broncos Super Bowl rematch. I mean, it wasn't within an hour to an hour and a half. I was already knowing that I'm going to have to write another column about head trauma. And if you saw the game, or even if you just watch sports talk shows, there's no question you've seen some of the issues. Basically, Cam Newton, the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, took at least 4 shots to his helmet, basically helmet-to-helmet blows. Now, that's not supposed to be legal for quarterbacks, but if you read the NFL rules, there's actually 2 components to the helmet-to-helmet contact rule. One pertains to athletes that are in a defenseless position. This would be your quarterbacks that are in the pocket. It also pertains to intentionally launching yourself as a defender, launching yourself at an opponent and then hitting them in the head. That's basically illegal as well. But where it's sort of murky is when the quarterback comes out of the pocket, basically becomes a runner, then helmet-to-helmet contact is legal. Now, I don't know what you may feel differently, maybe if you're a Denver Broncos fan, or maybe if you're a hardcore football fan that thinks the game's getting too soft. I would argue, though, those 4 helmet-to-helmet hits, almost all of those should have been penalties. They called the one on the last drive of the game where Darian Stewart basically hit Cam Newton in the head. That got the penalty, albeit it was nullified or sort of canceled out by an intentional grounding penalty that I would argue probably wouldn't have happened had Cam not had a player coming in his helmet. But that's just me. But that was the only one that was called. According to ESPN, a league source reviewed the hits, and another one of the hits by Broncos linebacker Brandon Marshall should have been called a penalty as well. He basically just launched himself into Cam Newton's head, basically another helmet-to-helmet blow. Now, it gets difficult with a runner like Cam Newton and a quarterback like Cam Newton. There's the problem right there, is a quarterback that also runs. The Panthers run a read option offense, and that's predicated on basically the quarterback making a split-second decision: should I pass or should I run? And if he runs, then yes, he becomes essentially a running back. But at the end of the day, he's still a quarterback, albeit 6'5" and 250 pounds and just as big as most teams' linebackers. He's still a quarterback. Now, I would argue that we should eliminate helmet-to-helmet contact for all quarterbacks. I think, even if you're essentially a running player, we've got to protect the faces of the league. And I think this is one of those instances where either unintentionally or maybe intentionally, the referees are treating Cam Newton differently, and we can't do that. So I'd say we've got to find a way to eliminate all helmet-to-helmet contact for quarterbacks. But I'd go one step further. We need to get rid of helmet-to-helmet contact to all players, running backs, wide receivers, everybody that basically is on the football field. You cannot have helmet-to-helmet contact. I know you can tell me that in college the targeting rule may be leading to more lower body like knee injuries, and there's actually, you'd be surprised, but there's actually some data that seems to support that. But we still need to do what we can to protect athletes. I get that by trying to avoid the head, they may aim lower, and you may have worse lower extremity injuries. We'll need to figure that out. But we can't have what looks like intentional helmet-to-helmet contact. Now, I know as a fan I can't judge intent, and referees can't judge intent either. I know it happens really fast. And sure, they're not going to see every helmet-to-helmet blow. But the league office supposedly is reviewing every play. If they issued $25,000 and $50,000 fines, I bet those helmet-to-helmet blows would go away really, really quickly. Now, the other aspect that this has really brought attention to is on that penalty that was called, the Darian Stewart hit to Cam Newton, where Cam was slow to get up. Now, I will tell you, it's really hard to really judge if an athlete's having symptoms of a concussion just by watching at home. I know during the Super Bowl a few years ago, Julian Edelman was pretty clear that he seemed groggy. That led to a lot of changes with the concussion policy, but I don't know for a fact if he was having symptoms of a concussion. Supposedly, one of the Panthers team doctors and the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant, which is a new component of the NFL's concussion policy, there's an unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant on each sideline of each game, which is, I think, a really good change. But supposedly, they asked to see the video of the hit, and supposedly, they determined that there was insufficient evidence to justify pulling Cam Newton out of the game to evaluate him for a concussion or to keep him from going back into the game and keep him from playing. One other part of the concussion policy today, at least, is and this was in place during the Panthers game, there is an athletic trainer in the stands or sometimes in the booth that is essentially a concussion spotter and is watching for athletes to see if they exhibit signs of a concussion. Again, the Julian Edelman thing, where he got up groggy, was sort of stumbling, but stayed in the game. In theory, and we don't know if there was a call down from the athletic trainer to the team physicians, but in theory, the athletic trainer could ask for a medical timeout so you could pause the game, have Cam Newton evaluated, and if he truly doesn't have a concussion, he gets to stay in the game. I don't know where this happened. I certainly don't want to be critical of the medical procedures. This may have all been done completely right. It's really hard to say as an outsider. I know the NFL and the NFL Players Association is looking into it, but we need to take this protocol seriously. Both with the helmet-to-helmet hits and the protocol, these can't just be paper efforts that the NFL is doing basically to look like they care about player safety when they really don't. They have to mean something. And when we're having issues one game into the season, it's time to fix it before we all just think that this is all for show and that the NFL is not serious about this. Okay, thank you for watching That's Gotta Hurt. Again, I'm Dr. David Geier. Stay tuned for our show tomorrow. I'm going to do a weekly roundup of injuries. We'll cover a lot of the injuries that occurred in week 1 of the NFL and maybe some players that are soon to be coming back or getting a little bit better. We may also talk some baseball and soccer and some other injuries as well. So if you have injuries you want me to discuss, in the comments below this video, leave those athletes and injuries and I'll try to talk about them tomorrow. Plus Thursday, I think we have something really fun as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you like That's Gotta Hurt with Dr. David Geier and you want these episodes delivered directly to you, I record them every single day. Subscribe to my video channel and I'll get them right to you. Thanks for watching That's Gotta Hurt. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow.